Good morning, Facebook. It's great to be with you again. Happy Friday, everyone. This morning we're going to focus on some deeper breathing. We've had a couple meditations that offered compassion, a beginner's meditation that focused on sensory, and then a visual imagery meditation that happened earlier in the week. So today I just want to focus on some deeper breathing down into the depths of the diaphragm, the depths of the belly. Many of us only breathe through our chest, so we're not taking a deep, full breath. The breath is a resource. It's an opportunity as a catalyst for oxygen to come in and to accentuate all the amazing stuff that happens on the inside. So when we take a deeper breath, we can allow the oxygen to fill ourselves, build our muscles, help reset our nervous system, send more oxygen to our brain. We're rewiring different circuitries so we can think easier, better, we can concentrate more. So taking a deeper breath is so important, and many of us, on several workshops that I've done, one of the first exercises I do is I have everyone lay down or sit up, but lay down primarily, and to take a breath, a couple breaths. And that's what I'm going to invite you to do today. And what we're going to see is, where are you actually breathing? Where is the air stopping? So what I invite you to do is to take a couple breaths, natural breaths. And I want you to pay attention to what's happening to your chest and to your belly. Is one rising and the other one is not? Are both rising? Are you not noticing any parts of what's happening to the chest or the belly? And what really happens is, when we breathe, we just breathe in our upper clavicle area, in our upper chest cavity. And so we're not really using this diaphragm, which is this amazing respiratory muscle that is a catalyst for so much. Athletes especially, when you're running, you're doing hard workouts, and you don't have that full burst of oxygen you're looking for, if you stop and you take a deep belly breath, you will regain that oxygen rich that you need to be able to continue on to your workout. So what we're going to do today is we're going to practice breathing down into the depths of the diaphragm, into the belly, so that you can start to learn what it's like to take a deep breath all day. Many of us, when we say take a deep breath, we breathe again into the chest cavity, and the diaphragm in the belly is kind of exempt. And that's where the diaphragm is the primary muscle of our respiratory system. So what we're doing is, just like we build the muscles in our legs and our back, our triceps, our biceps, what we're doing is we're building our diaphragm. And by practicing these belly breaths is a great way to do that. So I invite you to sit upright with your back straight, as usual, how we always do in meditation or any breathing practice. If you're lying down, that's great too. As long as your back is straight, that is our motive here. And I want you to put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. And I want you to take a deep breath. I would like you to take five deep breaths, and I want you to pay attention to what's rising higher, the hand on your chest or the hand on your belly. So go ahead and begin. Two more. Great. Now I'd like you to kind of do an inventory. What did you notice? Did the hand on your chest rise? Did the hand on your belly rise? Did both rise? Sometimes it's hard to tell, and that's okay. This is a breath learning that's very foreign to many of us because we don't take deep breaths. We don't infuse the oxygen down in the depths of our being. So what I'd like you to do is to put both hands on your belly at this point. And I want you to deflate, exhale all of the air. And when you do that, when you take the next inhale, I want you to breathe in through the belly. So the belly is going to rise. So go ahead and exhale, deflating everything in the belly. Bring the belly back towards the spine. Now on the inhale, breathe into the belly so that it's filling up like a balloon. Don't worry about the chest at this point. We're doing what's called a 3-part breath. So we're going to start with the belly. So go ahead and exhale fully, drawing the belly button in towards the spine so that way we're extracting all of the air out of our belly. And once that's done, take an inhale, breathing in through the belly. And you can see that my inhale kind of stopped right at the belly. So we're going to do one more time. Exhale fully, drawing the belly button into the spine. Then taking the inhale, filling the air into the belly. Great. Good job. So the next part is to include the lungs and the diaphragm. So first part is breathing into the belly rises. Second part is breathing into the lungs, into the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is like, think of it like a bridge almost that separates the upper cavity from the lower cavity. And when we inhale, the diaphragm pushes down so that the lungs can fill and expand. And when we exhale, the diaphragm pulls up, pushing all of the air out of the lungs. So that diaphragm is a muscle. And what we're doing by deep breathing is we're really kind of contracting and releasing that diaphragm, that muscle, and we're strengthening it. So that way you can take deeper breaths, pulling in more oxygen for better concentration, better health, better muscle recovery. So once you breathe into the belly, the next part is then to expand the lungs. So exhaling all of the air, we're going to breathe into the belly and then into the lungs. And it's going to take some practice to get used to this because it's kind of different for those of you who have not ever done this before. It's breathing into a whole new part of the body that's just kind of like using a muscle for the first time. It's a little challenging. So exhale all the air, pulling the spine back into the belly, kind of deflating that balloon, and then taking a breath into the belly, and then expanding into the lung. And then deflate. I'd like to make a note here that every time we exhale, we're pulling the belly button, per se, back towards the spine. And what's that doing is we're exhaling fully. Many times when we don't take a full breath, it's because we're not exhaling all of the air out. It's we're holding some of that air still in, so there's no room for a full, deeper breath to come. So it's important that when you begin trying these practices at home, that you fully exhale all of the air out of your body. And by drawing that belly button or the belly back towards the spine, it's like helping us to deflate that balloon, that belly balloon. So anytime I say exhale fully, that's what I want you to do. So go ahead, exhale fully. Now inhale into the belly and into the lungs. Awesome. Let's do it again. Exhale fully. Inhale to the belly, into the lung. Exhale, deflating fully. Awesome. Many of you can maybe see me doing this with my belly and watching the belly rise and fall. Yep, Trevor, that's awesome. Yoga is what teaches us this. It's a great physical practice. So the third part is adding the chest in. So we're going to breathe into the belly, into the lungs and the diaphragm, and then into the chest area. So we're going to take this full deep breath. And then when we exhale, we're just going to reverse. We're going to exhale from the chest, exhale from the lungs, and then exhale through the belly, pulling it back into the spine. So we can call it 3-part breath. We can call it full belly breathing. We can call it diaphragmic breathing. There's really lots of terms that you can use. The idea is just to practice it, because what you're doing is you're strengthening that diaphragm and you're taking in full breaths of oxygen. So go ahead, exhale fully. We're going to take a 3-part breath, starting with the belly, the lung, and then the chest. Begin inhale with the belly. Breathing up into the clavicle. Again. Exhaling. Again. Awesome. So we're going to pause here. If any of you have any questions, please chime in. I'm watching live so I can answer as you practice this. The 3-part breath is an inhale in the belly, an inhale into the lung, and then an inhale into the chest. The exhale is we're letting go from the chest, we're letting go from the diaphragm, we're letting go from the belly. So this is a practice that we do every day, if you can, multiple times a day. Once you start to practice it and you really get into the rhythm of this type of breathing, you will find that you will do it automatically. It's something that just comes naturally. It's building a muscle memory. And what you're doing is you're basically saying to your body, I love you, and I'm going to take in all of this oxygen so I can feed cells, I can feed organs and muscles, and then you're exhaling fully, saying, okay, I'm executing so that way I can take another deep, full breath. So by practicing this a couple times a day, I like to suggest 10 minutes to start. It's a great place. Set a timer and just really practice breathing in through each of the 3 cavities of the upper core body. For those of you who are athletes or musicians, or even yogis, different types of activity levels, whether it's extraneous work or very light work, this breath can help you tremendously. So for athletes, say you're a CrossFitter or a fast runner, when you get to the point of that red line where you just can't take in any more oxygen and there's a rest involved, doing this deep belly breath, exhaling fully, will help you to regain to take your next burst of workout. It's an excellent breath to do in between workouts in CrossFit, to be able to, when you're doing high intensity workouts, when you're on a rest cycle, to do this breath workout. So that way you can start to regain muscle recovery, and actually it produces more endurance, so that way you can catapult the next level of your workout. For those of you who are yogis, this is an excellent breath to do when you're in a deep stretch and the pain is starting to happen, the legs are starting to shake. It's a great way for connecting mind, body, and heart all in one. It's that 3 continuum practice. For those of you who are musicians, the same thing. This is building the diaphragm so that way you can take deeper breaths. You can exhale deeper breaths. Basically what we're doing is we're building a practice, because there's different types of breaths that follow. Coherent breathing is another great breath work type that will build heart rate variability. So helping with cardiovascular disease, helping with heart disease, that sort of thing. So this is going to help you build the muscles so that way you can take longer, deeper breaths For those of you who have shallow breaths, maybe you can't find that full inhale and that full exhale. This is a great practice to start building the strength in that. So for those of you who just chimed in, we're talking about belly breathing, diaphragm breathing, or the 3-part breath. We are working on breathing in through the belly, in through the lungs and the diaphragm, and in through the chest, and then exhaling in reverse. The chest, the lungs, and then the belly. So we're going to take a few minutes. We're going to practice this. I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to leave my verbal cues at a minimum so that way you can fully practice this. I encourage for any of you watching, please feel free to chime in either during or after this post. That way I can answer any questions you have. So go ahead and exhale fully, extracting all of the air, deflating the belly balloon, and begin taking that first breath. I would like to mention here that you can breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, in through your mouth, out through your mouth, or in through your nose, out through your mouth. Experiment with it. Find a way that you can take that deeper breath. Experience has taught me that when I breathe in and out through my mouth, I can take a deeper gulp of air. However, when we breathe in through the nose, we're targeting sensories. We're targeting different types of sensory neurons, neurotransmitters that are activating pieces of our brain. So all of it is really good, and I encourage you to change it up a little bit. So go ahead and continue breathing. Remembering to exhale fully, bringing the belly button back to the spine on each full exhale. Really using that belly as your catalyst. It's kind of like your leading point. Expanding the belly like a balloon, taking that first gulp of air, and then working into the diaphragm, working into the chest. And then when your exhale starts to begin, you're breathing out through the chest, contracting the lungs and the diaphragm, and then pulling that belly in. So that belly is really going to be your focal point. Watching the belly rise and watching the belly fall versus the chest cues that we are actually belly diaphragmic breathing. Once we breathe into the upper part of the chest, it confirms that full breath. And then same with the exhale. So really focus on the belly breathing. Using your hand if you need. You can also take this into a visual if it's helpful. Stay with your breathing, but try to listen at the same time. So for those of you who are beginning into meditation, beginning into breath work, a lot of times our minds want to offer us, this isn't for me, this is boring, this is snake oil, this isn't going to help me. And I can understand those thoughts. I too had them when I first started, and I sometimes still have them when the going gets tough and I know I need to sit for a practice, whether it's belly breathing, or a seated stillness practice. So sometimes having visuals can really help us to kind of quiet the thoughts as we're beginning. And as our practice advances, we can shift into really just focusing on breath. So for that purpose, I invite you, as you're breathing into each part, really visualize what's happening inside. So when you're breathing through the belly, breathing in, getting curious about the belly expanding. When you move into the lung and the diaphragm, get a visual about those lungs. I think we all know what lungs look like from middle school and high school and maybe even college science class. Actually expanding, and then the chest cavity, really like focusing on the heart and watching like the space kind of engage and enlarge. And then on the exhale, we're doing the same thing, watching it contract, watching the lungs deflate, and watching the belly pull in towards the spine. So it helps to give a visual for those of you who might be struggling with finishing a practice or really understanding what's happening. I also encourage you to go onto Google and find what happens to our body when we breathe. Go to the images, go to the videos. There's great, and I will post some afterwards for those of you who are interested to see what's really happening inside when we take these breaths, full body breaths. So coming back to the 3-part breath, wherever you are, focusing on belly, focusing on the lung and the diaphragm, focusing on the chest. Really pulling that belly button in on the exhale, exhaling fully. You can also purse your lips if it helps to exhale in a slower fashion. It's also an option. You can exhale fully and quickly. You can exhale slowly with pursed lips. It's experimentation time. Just find what's working for you in this moment. Tomorrow, the meditation may look very different. As we learn and as we engage in learning, educating ourselves about how we breathe, not how the person next to us breathes, but simply how we breathe. We can really start to learn about ourselves. We can learn about what happens when we're in crisis or stress or anxiety. This is another great breath exercise to do when you're in anxiety or when you're in panic. When you're in pain, you're slowing the heart rate. You're telling the nervous system, hey, don't freeze, don't get scared, don't run away. We're telling it to just relax. We're strengthening that heart rate variability, the flexibility of our heart. It's really important when dealing with stress, whether it's physical stress, emotional stress. This breath exercise is very key to any type of experience you're having. For those of you who are competitive and want to kind of challenge yourself a little bit, when you get into thinking about the muscle, the diaphragm muscle itself, once you've practiced this, I highly encourage this disclosure to practice this a few weeks before you take on, but you can also put a small weight, like a sandbag, maybe 3 or 5 pound sandbag on the diaphragm, and that will help give it some resistance to build it even stronger. So for those of you who may have been practicing this breath for a while and want the next option or the next challenge, that's a great way to continue to strengthen the diaphragm. Coming back to breathing into those 3 parts of our body. the belly, the lungs and the diaphragm, and the chest. Pulling that belly button in, extracting all the air. Letting the belly fill up first as you take that deep breath, filling into the lungs and into the chest. Another great way to do this is to lay down, because you can really feel the full breath happening on the back side of you as well. Sometimes harder to recognize when we're sitting upright. When our back is touching the floor, we breathe into the belly. We can really feel the chest open via the back on the platform in which we're laying on. So that's another great option for those of you who want to explore and discover what's happening when you do this exercise. Beginning with 10 minutes a day, working yourself up to maybe 20 minutes a day, and then noticing when you're doing just daily operating activities, sitting at your desk, working, cooking. When you think about it, if you happen to think about your breathing, maybe just a quick memory about it, tap into belly breathing. Do it while you're cooking spaghetti. Do it while you're grilling steaks on the grill. Do it while you're sitting at your desk at work. Even just a couple, 30 seconds to a minute of really practicing this deep belly breathing when we think about it can really be helpful in maximizing what it's doing for our bodies within. So I thank you all for joining me today and being witness and a participant in learning the belly breath. Again, I really encourage you, please email me, erin@abreathofwellness.com. You can find me on Facebook, either through my personal profile, which this live video is happening, or on my coaching page, which is A Breath of Wellness Life Coaching. The breath is very important to me, and I'm grateful I get to share that gift with you. And I invite you to share it with those close to you and anyone who crosses your path. Please share the message of the breath. The more people we have breathing consciously, the more joy the world will be. So thank you all again. I am grateful that you are with me, and enjoy the rest of your day. Many blessings.